Hello, it's Oren Prunken, and today I've got about a 15-minute drive, so plenty of time to go into probably the next part a little bit deeper. So last time I talked, it was about my journey and how I got started on this path with sales and marketing. So today I just kind of want to go into the next bit of kind of the easy way to do all of this stuff. So if you can remember back to last time we talked, I was telling you that I was a pretty average salesperson. I was being trained in a lot of the jobs that I was doing, and I was going out and starting small businesses and implementing things that I'd learned, or I'd be just trying things out and seeing what happened, and then learning as I went. And a lot of those things, I was learning individual tactics and techniques, and they worked, but they just only worked, semi-well. And I decided there had to be a better and or easier way to get the results that I wanted, particularly around selling, but also later on in my career around marketing. And I lived in Adelaide, and there's not a lot of independent education that happens here. You've got the WEA, you've got some TAFE courses, you've got some uni degrees, but at the time, I had decided to do a law degree, and that's a whole another story of how I got into that. But I started to do a whole bunch of independent research, and it was awesome because we had the internet, and I was able to go around and stumble upon a whole bunch of things that were being written and said on the internet. And I came across, really old texts such as Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins and Confessions of an Advertising Man by David Ogilvy, and the Robert Collier letter book. And Robert Collier was really interesting. Came across a quote by him that said, "You should always enter the conversation already taking place in your customer's mind." And that one quote, and I've spoken about that before, was really kind of life-changing for me. I had this epiphany that everything that I was doing up until that point in time was always about me, or always about me as a salesperson, or always about me as a brand or a small business. I was trying these tactics and techniques, hoping that this one thing would be the silver bullet that was able to get the results that I wanted. It was never focused on the customer, and it kind of was focused on the customer. It was focused on a very specific waypoint that they were going through, but it didn't really take into the whole context of what that customer was going through to make a purchase, right? And it was kind of that point in time that I realized that I had all these other pieces that were, and I've given the analogy before, it was like I had a puzzle with no front cover to it, no picture to show what the puzzle needed to look like, but I had many of the puzzle pieces that would fit together ultimately to create this picture that would be on the front, but I didn't have the picture. But it was Robert Collier that came to me with the picture in that quote. And what I really started to concentrate on was the conversation that was already taking place within the customer's mind. And what I mean by that was getting really empathetic about the customer journey. And it's going through and thinking about what a customer goes through from literally start to finish. And if you think about you and the way you make purchases, and I definitely think about this the way I make purchases, we all go through a very similar sequence of events that happens for us to make a purchase. And it really starts off with us going through life. And you think about this, right? Everyone's going through life, and then something happens. There's a point in time that something happens, and we realize that we have a problem. We have a problem in some area of our life. And then when that becomes conscious to us, we think and we go, is this worth me going out and solving? We do an opportunity cost analysis. So we're like, we've got all this money, and we've got all this time, we've got all this effort and attention. Are we going to go spend all of that and try to go and solve this problem? And then once we make the decision that we want to go out and solve that problem, we go and search for solutions, right? And usually there's quite a few solutions. I don't want to go too in depth with this, but sometimes people say, I've got this most unique product or service that is that no one else is has a competing product for. I'm always like, well, there is a competing product. Someone is going out and trying to solve that in their own way. They are trying to solve it without a commercial solution. They're trying to get by and solving it in some other way. There's always an alternative solution, even if it's not a commercial product or service. So then, you know, the person goes out and they're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of solutions out there. Even if it's one commercial solution and one solution that they are trying to implement themselves that is not commercially available. You know, the classic example is you see people that just pull out a bunch of spreadsheets trying to do a software solution that's all of these daisy-chained Excel spreadsheets linked together to create like a financial software. Or there's people that are trying to go on a diet and they're trying to lose weight, but they're not following a commercial solution. Someone is always trying to solve that in some way, and if they're going to make a commercial purchase, they are going to look for solutions. So I'm kind of getting off track, but once someone goes and looks for solutions, they then go and try to work out, well, which is the best solution out there for me, right? Out of this whole smorgasbord of things, which one is going to solve this in the best or fastest way possible? And then once they've done that, they're thinking, well, there are solutions out there. There are solutions that work. Which one is going to work for me? And once they've made that decision, they think, well, if it's going to work for me, are there any internal obstacles that I have personally that's going to stop this from working? Are there anything external to me that are going to stop me? And then there's a whole bunch of, purchase questions around finance. Do I have the budget? Do I have the authority with that budget? Is the timing right? And so on. So there's all of these questions that happen within their head, the conversation that is already taking place within their mind. Now, when you go out and purchase petrol, for example, I'm obviously driving my car and I probably need some petrol. All of those questions and then the answers to those questions are usually answered really, really quickly within my head, and more often than not, they are asked and answered subconsciously. We go through that process really, really quickly. Now, when it's a bigger purchase or a more expensive purchase, those questions in our heads slow down, and we become more conscious of them because the consequences are far bigger. And but literally, as I'm saying this, I want you to go about your next purchase and see which ones of those pop up. But we go through this really, really predictable sequence of events, and really understanding what all of those are. And like another way to think about this is on a thermometer, and it's pretty commonplace now in marketing and sales technobabble, that we have frozen customers, then we have cold customers, then we have warm customers, then we have hot customers, then we get to the boiling stage. And each one of those temperatures on a thermometer kind of represent how a customer moves through that journey. And another way to look at it, and I usually talk about it in terms of this is, do they know you? Do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they love you? But each one of those stages, and you can capture it any different way. There's another one. Are they conscious of you? Have you gone out and captivated them? Have you captured them? Have you converted them? Have you climbed them? Have they commended you? And have they circulated what you're doing? There's a whole bunch of models, and it's just a framework to think about this customer journey that people are having. So once you've kind of worked out this logical progression, it's really then just plugging in all of your marketing and sales pieces into those models. There's no point going to someone that is a frozen customer and giving them a hot offer. It's like going up to someone and proposing marriage on the first date. They're going to call you a creep and or punch you in the face. You really need to go about whatever you're doing in marketing and sales, all those tactics and techniques that everyone's been teaching you, or you've been learning, or you've been stumbling across. and plugging them into the correct part of that conversation that's already happening within your customer's mind. And that's kind of the epiphany and the realization that I had that really made things so much easier for me. Easier for me as a salesperson, easier for me as a small business owner, but also the more important thing, it made it much easier for customers. They were getting what they needed and what they wanted in terms of marketing and sales communication at the right time. It's really key concept to grasp, is that as soon as you make it easy for them, you make it easy for yourself as a salesperson. So kind of up to 11 minutes now, and I'm getting close to my destination. So I really hope this gives you a bit more insight on the easier way to go about marketing and selling. The way you should be looking at it is from your customer's perspective, as well as yours, but mainly coming from the context of what they are going through and aligning what you are doing with where they're currently at. So I'd love you to go out and just take some of the ideas that I've got within the last 10 or so minutes, try it out to what you're currently doing, see what happens, but more importantly, I want you to let me know how you go. And if you switch from going from the hard way of doing these things to a much easier, and I suspect, because I've been through this journey multiple times, that this will help you out a lot. As I said, let me know. Have an awesome day, and until next time, I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.